Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with, I believe it's the 11th episode of the Dancer DLC. You should look at the video title for the official answer, because I had a crash, sadly. Not because of the game. It was another related matter, but I lost... fortunately, I was paused during that, but all of my card placements are probably going to be reset throughout this playthrough, just because I had to reload the game. But we're playing Margaret, we're playing the Dancer DLC, and I will get myself back on track. So I do need to do a quick review of the board just because I did take a chance to sort of run some errands and see what was going on. So the weary detective is checking out our Mystique, Course of the Heart. I can't remember what provoked that, but I'm always happy to have the Vitality. We actually haven't had we haven't had sickness for a while. We're performing at the Gaiety Theatre. Oh, well, okay, well, Season of Sickness is coming up, so the Course of the Heart is arriving just on time. We're napping, we are finding an acquaintance, and yes, we are continuing to pursue the occult scraps. Now, I think one of the things I was going to do was use my passion in the study verb, but because it will be 9.2 seconds, because I only have the two, I'm basically stopping my studies, but I'm doing this to basically be able to have that third passion, to be able to like kind of get that cycle of getting acquaintances, still be able to do things at the Gaiety, and basically just get that cycle running a little bit better. So now that I've reviewed everything, we will unpause and watch the magic happen. Or not happen, because I have not got my first ritual yet. All right. Come with me. And we found Enid. All right. So that'll go straight to the study slot. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. We're reading sentimental literature. Add Enid to the audience. And there's our Wood Whisper. All right. So I suppose the question is, do I want to talk about... Do you want to talk about anything? Can't use the peculiar rumor because of the Season of Suspicion. We generated another Mystique, so we know that's going to be sticking around for longer. I think it's just a question of continuing to talk about esoteric matters. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. So it's a little bit of a shame that we've put our studies aside, but in this case, I suspect building up my passion, which of course is associated with Moth, is still probably the right way to handle it. Oop. I am refreshed. Okay. So just trying to think, is there anything I want to do with the dream slot? Probably not, because we are going to have the... Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back. Tonight they'll notice that. Felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. So I'm not crazy about this solution. Using this much health, it's just one of these cases where I feel it's an inefficient use of my resources. But I don't know. It's not the biggest problem I'm going to be running into, let's say. So I'm gonna run with it for now until I've got sort of a better lineup for my passion. We've got two expeditions that we can use in the city or in the capital, but of course we don't really have the numbers in terms of our order of the Wildwood Club. So we will seek out another. There are places in the city where I can find extraordinary things if I can sift the clues out of history and rumor. Now, one of the hopes that I have here is that I'm going to be able to get enough... Incidentally, I'm amused. I can't remember the... I guess it doesn't say... I remember I got a really... It felt like a very cross email or comment about... how it's like not the Season of Sickness or whatever. I'm gonna call it the Season of Sickness just because deep down I feel that there's somebody really annoyed by that, and I didn't like the tone of the comment. But whatever it's called, we're sick and I've got a Vitality sitting by, so I think I probably could have used the dream slot else. Actually, it's only gonna take me 30 seconds, so I will nap to recover fatigue. Generally, I like to keep the dream slot open to be able to cure the ill health. Now, work-wise, I'm trying to think if I want to try the contract at the Igdisis Club again, because I don't really have... So I've already used my higher level lore, and we're already working on the change ambition. Let's maybe... We don't have any restlessness to get rid of, so let's maybe just give this a shot. So the Igdisis Club opens. I have learnt on a rhythm determined by the moon as she alters her shape. It is always, but not only, open on nights of the new moon. So I don't think this is going to do much for my... I don't actually think this is going to help me that much. But I maybe want to see... I kind of... Well, I didn't luck. I kind of knew what I was doing, but I don't fully recall exactly how the dancer works. But I also kind of want to see... Actually, yeah, so if I just do start... Okay, yeah, I can't start like this. So if we add the Igdisis Club... Mr. Agdistus guides me from the dressing room to the stage. He was a dancer once himself. You can still see it in his gestures, but the wound in his thigh keeps him from the stage. So if I hit start here, still not enough. Normally it's grayed out, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. So then if I do change leaf, a great work, the final fulfillment of a desire is often a conclusion. It is not enough to hope. If I stand or fall, I stand or fall on my deeds. Desires are often means to winning a game. The desire for sensation or power or enlightenment will require a great ritual, but there are other, even rarer desires, especially in the Ghoul, Priest, and Dancer expansions. Okay, so if I give my health, Thunder almost, tight weird oh, okay, hang on. So where... I'm trying to think where the scar fits in. So yeah, it really does feel that this is related so that the Igdisis Club really is not traditional employment. It really feels like if I'm going to be dancing, the gaiety is where I go with that. But I'm really going to need to think a bit about the Igdisis Club, because the more I look at that screen, the more I realize I actually don't remember that well. But that's some of the fun. It's actually why I kind of like having some of the legacies on ice for a while, because it's a chance for me to sort of encounter the challenges of Cultist Simulator again. Sometimes, you know, there's enough sort of muscle memory to just work my way through, but it can be fun sometimes. In my opinion, at least, it can be fun to sort of run into a difficulty and be like, oh, I seem to remember there was a way of solving this, but... Okay, anyways, I passed the time, I've been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. Now, 29 seconds on Old Unhappy Far Off Things, so I should be able to get a restlessness in there, but it's going to be a bit close. The other concern I may have is glimmering. So I think what I'm going to do here is I am going to risk... the one worry that I have is I am not always the quickest on the draw with the verbs. So I'm going to study my passion again just to allow this glimmering to sort of last as long as possible. Obviously, I don't want the lesson learnt to be sort of decaying in the, you know, while I'm not really making progress on it. But of course, that'll leave me with 12 seconds left to be able to produce the lesson learned. So if I, for instance, just go on to autopilot and read sentimental literature again, I'll definitely lose the glimmering. I am refreshed. Okay. So 25 seconds before we have to worry about the ill health, so I'm not gonna touch anything else. My mystique has attracted this hunter's attention. They can prove nothing yet, but they'll keep looking for longer now. Right. Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. And a half-glimpse wistfulness has touched me, so we'll... Oop, maybe 0.7 seconds. There we go. I'm a listen package of flesh and blood. Tonight they'll notice that. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. So of course we're not making the kind of money that we were with our old benefactors, but we have enough to sort of work with. I don't have that major drain on my funds, so I have the natural progression of time. That's obviously going to be one funds card per minute. but I'm not going to Oriflammes as often as I used to. I don't have moorlands to go to. So this savings is ultimately going to be financing my expeditions, but the like in terms of funds, it's probably the second or third set of expeditions that I go on that are going to be draining on that. And again, I don't want to be reckless. I want to make sure that I'm continuing to earn. But essentially here, because I'm doing the extra effort at the Gaiety, this is going to translate into more, basically more money. We're going to have sort of an upward trend in terms of our cash. This illness has damaged my health. I'll need to rest before I'm fully recovered. So in this case, one funny fact, I think I know my old videos are not that easy to find, but I think some of my earliest videos of Cultist Simulator, maybe not even my earliest, I actually think I had this habit for such a long time, but there was a while where I'd always associated verbs with, like, you have to have all the blocks full, which makes me wonder what I did for trappings with, makes me wonder what I did with trappings for recruitment. So maybe there was some other reason why I did this. But anyways, I always felt that you had to have a vitality and medicine. So you had to put funds and vitality in here. So the way I handled affliction was actually, like, to me, afflictions were really dangerous because I had to pull back on my money as well as generate vitality. I got very good at generating vitality and funds to deal with it. But obviously I was doubling up the effort. And the game will let you do that, but it's not necessary. And it's funny because I think the game actually wound up going into release before I finally dropped that habit. But I mean, again, like I didn't have a problem completing the legacies. Like I was still able to win doing that. But obviously, it's if you play the game and this is interesting. If you play the game and think that's what you need to do, obviously, that's going to be a really frustrating way to play if you're not able to get a handle of the afflictions. Okay, so we'll take the furtive truth, a place, a person. Oh, that's not right. Details smuggled in from an adjacent narrative. Don't speak where you may be overheard. Odd nooks remain in the quiet countryside here and there for those who know where to look. So this is not going to be one that we follow up on anytime soon, but it just gives me something to do with the Explore verb. And we're going to find another mentor. So normally I'd like to just take the hit on notoriety and leave it at that. But again, because we got a Season of Suspicion, I can't afford to recruit this way. Eventually I'm going to have some heart followers and we're going to be able to sort of launder our reputation, but that's a ways off. And at the rate at which we're finding new recruits, it may be a little further than I thought. Anyways, the stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Okay, so I gotta watch my dread. I don't think there's any danger of dread coming up, but it's always good to keep an eye out. I pass the time, I've been inclined to tears and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. So we'll grab the oldest glimmering, turn that into a lesson learnt. The tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. If I spend time studying what I've learnt, I could work towards increasing my passion. My emotions run higher than usual. These are the things I'll never understand, and those things will always be precious, but just now I am closer to them. Alright, what can we learn from each other? Nothing at the moment, but we will work on that. We'll talk about the Wood Whisperer again. So I do want to recruit Enid at some point. Enid speaks softly, and sometimes her gaze doesn't focus on anything visible. It may be you've dreamed the same dreams. In this case, I'm kind of saving Enid kind of for the use of trappings. That it wouldn't be the first time that I've done that, but also I really just want to try and get more people in the Wildwood Club. So in that case, the priority goes to the talk verb. Oh, interesting. This one, for whatever reason, well, I guess I didn't have the oops. I guess I didn't have the opportunity to really show my stuff. Anyways, we've got another vitality coming up through Course of the Heart, and we will be cured of our sickness in 6 seconds. And it'll still be enough time for us to rest and get our health back a little bit faster. To recover from fatigue. Yeah, looks like these are... I think I'm just going to move all this to the side and see if maybe we can reset, because I don't think the verbs should be stacking on top of each other like that. This place merits closer investigation. Gladwin Lake. So again, normally we should be getting some more occult scraps to work with, either through dreaming with our Dreaming of the Woods, or through reading of books. But we are currently using the study verb to be able to increase my my glimmering, or my passion, through glimmering. And you know, the talk verb hasn't quite been giving me, or sorry, the dream verb's been used for healing. So I just haven't had the opportunities to be using these things for what I normally would. And of course, I've got the option of using Rhaenyra to explore. Rhaenyra is one of the reasons... So I asked this question a while back. One of the reasons why I wanted a Grail follower is that the event for Grail... This is a case of where I sort of learned something. Grail is the one where potentially you can get... you can get a glimmering just by using it. So you know how when you will have a heart card, there's that chance of getting the Course of the Heart. Lantern, there's the chance to get some erudition. Now, it turns out that with Moth, and I'm sure I've encountered this before, and I just didn't really register it at the time. So I'm most used to Moth generating old, unhappy, far-off things, which of course generates restlessness, which gives you the potential for dread. Alternatively, if you have a character that's more of a painter, then that just winds up giving you a subject for your next painting. Obviously, subjects are not... You know, there's plenty of inspiration on the board. Usually that's not that hard to find a subject for a painting, but restlessness is not that difficult to get rid of if you're a painter. But it does turn out, and we've seen this a couple of times on this playthrough, and again, because I'm Moth-oriented, I suspect probably there's a reason why I've been seeing this more often, but it does actually seem that there's another half to Moth events, which is they can sometimes generate glimmering. Now, in my view, I would still prefer to have Grail followers running around doing their things. One, because they're hot, and two, no. The Grail followers are the ones who I'm a little more interested in, just because I figure if you have the risk of generating restlessness or the glimmering, or if you just have the chance of generating the glimmering, it would seem to me that glimmering is the one that you'd want to get more often, right? So with that in mind, I brought, I would have a preference for Rhaenyra exploring. As it is, though, we've sort of been using the explore verb for other things. But if you notice, like, we don't have the auction house anymore. We don't have Moorlands to go to. There's really not a lot for us to do with explore because the peculiar rumor is going to wind... Actually, I wonder how long it takes. This is a dangerous, dangerous game. I'm actually going to let this run down. So I was going to send Rhaenyra out, but I'm actually going to wait on this peculiar rumor as long as possible. My own heart pumps more strongly today. So yeah, I was interested when so many people in the comments mentioned Moth, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is right. But in this case here, I was thinking of Grail just specifically because my understanding of Grail is that it will generate more glimmering, and the reason I wanted glimmer... Again, this is a question I asked a few episodes ago, but basically the reason I want more glimmering is to be able to get my passion up, because passion is something that I'll use in work. It's something that I'm going to use in terms of getting more followers, and then currently it is my only entryway to the Mansis. So that was sort of the reasoning behind the question. Okay, so I'm assuming here that in 17.6 seconds, I'm either A, not going to generate a mystique, or B, that the peculiar rumor will not generate a notoriety. I think it's reasonably safe here for tracking down a rumor being complete in longer than 17.6 seconds. That's probably going to be at least a half a minute. But of course, and I would say here that there's at least 30 seconds for the talk verb as well. But again, if any kind of mystique gets generated for any reason, I'm going to sign myself up for evidence. So yes, we've got 1 minute for tracking down a rumor. There are more windows to my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. And in this case here, because we're not following through on anything that might generate glimmering, I'm just going to take my passion into the study verb right away. So read sentimental literature. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. Nap to recover from fatigue. I am refreshed. Alright, tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention. If I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. So we're going to get another rumor. Again, it feels like we've been getting a lot of mentors. More than we normally expect. And of course, just the way the balance works makes sense to put the health here. So I am a lissome package of flesh and blood. Tonight they'll notice that. And I suppose the question would be, do I want to use... I guess in this case I can afford to use my passion because we're going to be getting that extra glimmering anyway. And I know I'm not going to need it for another minute, so... Now I pass between the scar-barked trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. If a hunter has found notoriety, they will use it to create or upgrade evidence. If they're meticulous, they'll always succeed. If they're erratic, they're more likely to fail. But they can occasionally create evidence even without notoriety. Okay, so what do we have here? I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer. Too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. Okay, so there goes our health, and let's go... Stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. And this was the light, the dark, the light. So this is the Moth event that I was talking about. Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. So this actually winds up giving me that glimmering that I needed. Of course, we're already on our way to getting our extra lesson learned, but I'm not going to complain about having a spare. We can worry about... what I'll maybe do is I'll be reading some books, and if I don't generate another glimmering through other means, maybe just when I know we're at sort of the 60-something second mark, we can maybe try and turn that into... Or we can try and generate another glimmering to extend its life. And we've got a Season of Silence, so basically that's the same as a free turn for me. This game doesn't actually have turns, but it's helpful to think of the 1-minute slots as a turn. I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they've found no new clues. So, Query Detective needs to get put back in his place a little more often than the others. And what could I be if I could not be... Sorry, what could I be if I could not be not this? So these two are going to get combined into the lesson learnt, then we're going to put that into the passion. This one is going to stick around for a little bit longer, and we'll see whether or not we can generate another glimmering. Okay, track down a rumor, an unpromising address, but a promising resident. So we just got to hang her on for that. Now, you know, if I were to express, like, my true feeling on this is a pretty disappointing, you know, result if you're wanting... you know, if you're generating a notoriety... Notoriety is one of the higher costs for getting a follower, so, you know, you feel kind of... to get that. But on the other hand, right, you're going to get notoriety from doing lots of things inside this game, so I don't want to be too crabby about it. But you kind of hope for a named character when you're doing something costly. I've passed the time, I've been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. So... let's grab our glimmering here, another glimmering here. That turns into a lesson learnt. Tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. I have spent enough time studying what I have learnt. I could work towards increasing my passion. And Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. So we do actually have another glimmering to work with, so lucky me. We seem to be generating this from the gaiety, so I'm actually slightly curious what... At least that seems to be where it's coming from. So I'm a little curious because we're not actually using passion in these. And maybe that I'm misunderstanding exactly what's driving this result, but it's interesting to say the least. I'm a little surprised that it's turning out this way. The stage waits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Okay, so don't really want to do buzzing in the brain. That generates restlessness, and I don't want to do dance at the Ecdysis Club right now. So at the moment, Moth influence is not going to do much to me, or for me. The Temple of the Wheel, we've gone there the last couple of times. It hasn't necessarily given me the things that I'm looking for, so maybe we'll change it up and see what we can find in the well. We got a Vitality. which is not terrible, but maybe not the most important thing I could be working with. The well in the woods is sacred to the Grail, the hour that hungers, and to the velvet, the hour that guards secrets. Tonight as I approached, it heaved with the velvet's moss, struggling waves of deep and vibrant green, pulsing again and again from its throat. It surged around my calves, rose to my thighs, and this morning I still feel the velvet's breath strong within me. So, it's a little extra vitality to play with. If I want, I could turn that into a lesson learned for preservation, but I don't really feel like I need to hang on to vitality that much. We do a lot of things that can generate it, and generally, we usually need vitality in order to be able to we need to be able to do that to recover from sickness. Sickness is telegraphed early enough that we can, just study to generate that. So normally I don't see the value. I guess here's the way that I like to think of costs in this game, if it helps. So think about what happens when you get sick. If you take a look at the timer, which I'm not very good at doing all the time, so I'll often maybe be surprised by it. But if you look at the timer, you have 1 minute before your health gets picked up. But of course, when your health gets picked up, you have a minute before you actually have the affliction card to deal with. And so, assuming that your study slot is open, you actually have enough time, assuming you've got another health, of course, but as long as you have one extra health, you actually have the same amount of time to be able to use your health card with your study verb to basically get a free healing. So if, in terms of telegraphing, you basically have a full 2 minutes in order to be able to, again, maximum, but if you think of the maximum, you can have up to 2 minutes to react to the knowledge that you'll be getting sick. There's other ways of getting sick too, but I'm thinking specifically of just random chance. Well, I guess the other ones are random chance too, but you know what I'm thinking about, the sickness that comes from here, from the seasons. Now, because you have 2 minutes of certainty before you can actually act on the affliction, yes, that means you're going to be tying up your study verb, or alternatively, you're paying to not tie up your study verb. You have that option, or you can do sort of what I'm talking about, which is, oh, I've got some vitality, how about I try preserving it? Well, if I try preserving it, I know that my study verb is going to be tied up for 60 seconds, but I don't know that the sickness is going to be coming in. And so essentially what I do is I'm sort of trading on the possibility of this event coming up when, again, I have the possibility of sort of 2 full study verb actions for foreknowledge of the event that's coming up. So in that sense, there are times where, like, you'll notice the way that I've treated the glimmering, because, I want to keep my collection of poetry for moving up to sort of that final level of passion, and sort of similar idea with the erudition, but the reason is not as important to my character right now. But basically, for these ones, because they may be a little bit rarer, or because when you kind of remember what I had to do to get the higher level of the physique, there can be times where I actually want to preserve vitality. But in the case of just trying to keep some vitality around in order to deal with the eventuality of a sickness, in this case here, I'm sort of turning something which is sort of 2 minutes warning into a guaranteed 1 minute hit to my study verb when I could be using it for books. Now, obviously, if I didn't have any books around, then it's not as costly. But essentially, I'm sort of tying up my study verb for something that I actually have more than enough knowledge to handle on. And again, I'm sure for most people that's probably not something that they've ever had to struggle with, but if what I tend to find is that when I think of the game this way, it lets me sort of put a little more structure on, I guess for lack of a better term, it lets me put a little more structure on the way that I play. And I think this might stem from a time when I played, so in earlier versions of the game, there weren't the little guide, like, so let me think of an example here. If I click on the wood, like, there's the highlight for the dream slot, and then of course if I select dream, it'll show me all of these options here. There was a time when it wouldn't actually guide you like this. There was a bunch of cards, and you were sort of left to make sense of it all. And so what I tended to find was I needed a bit of a system in order to be able to, just make sense of it all and try and guide me towards experimenting in a productive way. So rather than just brute forcing every single combination of cards, to try and think about how I would make the most of my possibilities. And so in the end, just I found that a useful way of sort of thinking and making the most of the opportunities that I had. Because in the end, certain actions would potentially be, certain experiments would wind up being costly. But anyways, that was a very long road on a problem that I suspect is probably only one I've ever run into. So we're going to track down a rumor again. We've already got a notoriety on the table. You know, it's not the end of the world. They're fairly close together. If I didn't have any notoriety, I probably wouldn't be following up on this rumor, but I do have notoriety, so I might as well just embrace the notoriety. I suspect that at the end of this story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. And then while we're at it, it's probably a little more important for me to be generating mystique, so we are going to speak of esoteric matters. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And then for the dream slot, we are going to go to the wood because we have, well, this passion might get picked up, but we should be able to get the replacement in time. And I realize we're at the end of our time, but I did spend some time sort of babbling on, so I'm going to take a minute here and... Gonna take a minute here and see where the to see the results of my of these turns. Okay, Season of Vision's coming up, and no more other opportunities. So just as well that we haven't been, I guess just as well that we haven't been generating any restlessness. Okay, I think that'll be it. I know I said we're spending a little extra time, but this is a decent time for me to wrap it up here. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you've been enjoying the series and have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. And if you'd like to be notified of the videos, you can hit the bell to the right. And then, of course, if you'd like to show your appreciation of the videos, please feel free to leave a like or a comment. They do help me get noticed, and of course, bring more souls into the Wildwood Club. As for the rest of the series, I believe I've got one more video for this week, so I will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.